Are perfect blood sugars required for pregnancy as a type 1 diabetic? Let's talk about it. Now, something I see very regularly when it comes to type 1 diabetes and pregnancy is this idea that in order to have a healthy baby and a healthy pregnancy, you must keep your blood sugars in between, let's just say 70 and 120, 24/7. Those numbers will vary slightly depending on your doctor, but we're just using a general range, okay? And if your blood sugars go out of these ranges, then you're going to harm your baby. And many MFM or high-risk OBs will promote this narrative that, yes, if you go out of range, you're going to hurt your baby. But I want to tell you that this is not true. I've been a type 1 diabetic for 23 years now. I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I have gone through 3 pregnancies. I know what it takes, and I have worked with many, many other type 1 diabetic women to help them have healthy pregnancies. So I'm pretty well versed on what this takes, and I've been living with this disease for, again, 23 years now. And the truth that I think is that honestly, most MFM and OB and some endocrinologists just don't actually have any idea what this takes. And what I mean by what this takes is like actually going through pregnancy as a type 1 diabetic, right? Like a doctor probably thinks like, okay, you need to check your blood sugars and you need to count your carbs and take your insulin. And like they think that's all it takes. But if you're a type 1, you know that that's not the reality of this at all. If it were that simple, everybody would have amazing A1Cs and people wouldn't need my help. And I'm not an expert by any means, but I did struggle with my blood sugars and having any sort of control over this disease for about 15 years. And it wasn't for lack of trying. I tried very hard. I tried low carb, I tried keto, I tried plant-based, I tried all sorts of different diets. I tried just basically anything that you think you could try to have better blood sugar control. I tried it over the years. And, it wasn't for lack of me just being like, screw this, I'm not going to take care of myself, because no, again, I was trying. I just didn't have the right tools. And once I got pregnant with my first daughter, which was almost 8 years ago now, which is crazy. She's about to turn 7. I kind of had to figure things out on my own. I learned a lot through kind of the online diabetes community. Not a lot, but I learned some good tips through that. And then a lot of it was honestly just trial and error. I did eventually get she's a NP or a PA, I can't remember, but she works specifically with type 1 diabetics and type 2 diabetics during pregnancy. And I've been working with her ever since, and she is great. Now, don't get me wrong, there are great doctors out there. But 9 times out of 10, even her, she's great, but she never has really given me specific tools or like skills to be practicing. It's more so like you go in for your appointment and here's where we're going to make some changes to your basal rates and your insulin to carb ratio and yada yada, right? But like, I don't know about you, but I cannot remember ever going into an appointment over the past 23 years and my doctor being like, okay, when you eat food, let's try this. Or like, when you eat food, let's try adding these certain foods in together. Or like, here's how we actually want to use pre-bolusing. Or just like any actual skills, never mind mindset. No doctor has ever talked to me, from what I can remember, about my mindset and like the way we think about this disease and how that actually really truly impacts the way you manage this disease. Because the truth of the matter is there's a lot of victim mentality in the type 1 diabetes space. And believe me, I get it. I know this disease isn't a walk in the park, but I'm also a full believer in like, if you're going to feel like a victim to this disease, you're going to be a victim to this disease. It's never going to feel easy. It's always going to feel hard. You're always going to be struggling. And like, that's the way you're going to live your life. Like, you are creating that reality. And while, yes, I understand there are privileges as well, having access to insulin and CGMs and the tech that makes living with this disease easier is a privilege. And I am fully aware of that. And I understand that. Aside from that, I just think that there are so many people that choose to live in the victim mentality. And getting back to my original point, you don't have to have perfect blood sugars to have a healthy pregnancy. Now, yes, you have to have well-controlled blood sugars. And I will never advocate for, you'll see those stories of people being like, oh, my A1C was 10 or 9 or high 8s or whatever. And like, my baby was fine. And we call that survivor bias. Just because that one person or couple people that had higher A1Cs and still had babies that were okay does not mean that that is something you should like be trying to do. Like, we still want to have well-controlled blood sugars. We still want to minimize the risks and complications as much as we possibly can. And I can say this personally from my own experience. I lost my third child to full-term stillbirth, even with incredibly well-controlled blood sugars. His death had nothing to do with my diabetes. Again, because I was very well controlled. I am very well controlled. My A1C was in the 5s my entire pregnancy. Unfortunately, he had what is called a cord accident. And his cord was super tightly coiled, and also abnormally long. And both of those things led to his death. However, I know that I did everything in my power to be as healthy as I possibly could with my diabetes. And honestly, that felt like the easiest part of my pregnancy. And I will share more about Clark, my son, and all of that. But for now, this is just to talk more about the expectations you might be placing on yourself and what you think is required from you with pregnancy as a type 1 and how it's really not true. I think a lot of people think that a low carb diet is required because, especially the further along you get in pregnancy, the more insulin resistance you have, typically. But that's not actually true either. It's really more so learning the skills and the systems that will allow you to still incorporate carbs into your diet and have healthy, normal blood sugars. Because the thing is here with pregnancy, again, perfection is not required. Therefore, your blood sugar will spike. You will go out of range. And that is normal. That is okay. Even non-T1Ds, their blood sugars spike and go out of range too. Their bodies bring it back into range on its own, lucky them. But we have the job of figuring out how to bring our blood sugars back into range quickly, safely, and, not hanging out there for extended periods of time. But what I always say to my clients and what I remind myself of during pregnancy is like, we want to almost take a bird's eye view approach and zoom out, right? It's so easy, especially when you're pregnant, to get super hyper focused on that one blood sugar that's out of range and start freaking out and thinking like, oh my God, I've harmed my baby. Oh my God, like what is going to happen? Like yada, yada. But the reality of it is like, yes, of course, we're trying to be in range as much as possible, and we're trying to bring our blood sugars back into range as quickly and safely as we can. But when we zoom out and we look at the big picture and we look at things like, where is your A1C? What is your time in range? What is your standard deviation? Your average blood sugar? All of those things together are almost more important than like one specific blood sugar at any given time, right? Because again, your blood sugars will fluctuate. You are a human being that's alive, who's eating food. And that's exactly what food is supposed to do, to give you energy, right? So your blood sugar is going to go out of range, and that's okay, because perfection is not required in order to have a healthy pregnancy, okay? Really, what is required is a repeatable system and skills that can allow you to feel much more calm in your pregnancy, allow you to feel confident in the decisions that you're making, allow you to have well-controlled blood sugars and A1Cs that are in range, and that 70% time in range that's recommended during pregnancy. And an important note here is like, you want 70% in range, but you also want to make sure that you're paying attention to what that range is, right? If, like, for example, if you have your Dexcom set to your low setting is 70 and your high setting is 200 and you're 70% in range between there, that's okay, but it's not great. You want to lower that high setting to probably 150, 160, something. You don't want it to be driving you crazy, your Dexcom to be driving you crazy and going off 24/7, but you do want to lower that so that your time in range is more accurate and you're getting alerted sooner when your blood sugar is going out of range, so you can act on it sooner and therefore hopefully be out of range for less time. Okay. So having, those repeatable systems and skills, having the mindset that will keep you calm and know when you maybe do need to worry a little bit more or when you don't, right? Like if you have a blood sugar at 250, is that a time to freak out, or like, what does that mean? Right? And just knowing how to bring your blood sugars back into range quicker and safer, and knowing what to expect, and having, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but like I always say that doctors know textbook diabetes and we know real life diabetes, and there's a big difference, right? And so having real life tools to support you makes that much of a difference. Anyway, that's just I think this idea of perfection not being required for pregnancy is something that so many women need to hear. And I just feel like I need to share this message with more and more people. So that's kind of my hope with creating these little videos and trainings. And I hope that they help you, and maybe you share them with your diabetic friend. And also, if you want more support, I do have a guide. There's no pressure, but I do have a guide. It's almost 200 pages where I put all of my systems and skills and strategies and methods that have helped me have healthy pregnancies, and again, helped hundreds of other women that I've worked with. And you can find that on my Instagram page or my TikTok page. It's on my Stan Store link. It's called Limitless, the T1D Motherhood Method, and it will teach you everything you need to know. I will link it in the description box if I can, but I don't know if I can do that yet. This is a new page, so we'll see. But yeah, I'm an open book too. I try to share a lot of free knowledge and tools that I think will help people. And when you want to dive deeper, that's when my guide will help you. And you can see what other people are saying about the guide too. When you look at that link, there's, testimonials from people. But my hope with this channel is just to continue sharing my, I think, sometimes unique perspectives on diabetes and how we manage this disease and why things like mindset are so important, and my little tips and tools. And again, when you want to dive deeper, Limitless is where you will get everything you need to know for trying to conceive, pregnancy, postpartum, breastfeeding, labor, exercise, foods to eat, how to lower your A1C, just everything. I've packed it all into there, as much information as I can get. And it's something that I continuously edit and add to. And when you buy it once, you get those lifetime updates forever. So if you're interested in that, you can certainly check out the link on my Instagram or my TikTok. You can also send me a message anytime you have questions. My DMs are always open. And let me know what other topics you want me to create videos on, because again, I hope to kind of make this page a library full of resources for T1D women, especially T1D women who are hoping to get pregnant or currently pregnant, and looking for some of those real life tools, skills, and support. So yeah, follow along. Please subscribe. It would mean so much to me, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Bye.